Hello everybody, we're starting our stream a little bit late today. I apologize for that. We had to go see Santa today and we just got back. So I am starting about an hour late. I think we had discussed this yesterday that I might be starting a little late today and probably tomorrow as well. But we'll go ahead and get started on our continuation of the Spare Change Challenge. I already have 4 cash games up, as you can see. I think everything is in order and we could just play accordingly. I've already been playing a little bit. Actually played for about 20 minutes and had clicked the wrong button on I clicked the wrong button on OBS, the broadcasting software, so I've been running a preview the last 20 minutes and then I realized it and clicked the correct button and restarted the stream. And actually also had Ignition Casino crash about the same time, so it's just been a rough go with technical issues. But now we're up and running, I believe, correctly. So hopefully we will not have any more issues and we can get this show on the road. So we may play 1 hour, we may play 2 hours today, I'll just see how it goes. But we'll start out with cash games, see how those are running, as typical. And if the cash games are not good, we will make an exit early and go to heads up sit and goes. And if the games are good, we'll stay for at least an hour. And then make the switch at that point. We've been running fairly poorly at the heads up sit and goes, but if we're going to run good at something, let it be the cash games. I think the first 10 days we ran pretty bad at cash games, but pretty good at the heads up sit and goes. So if it's going to be one way or the other, that would be fine by me, because I think that when you run good at cash games, it's a lot more lucrative. We've only played about 2,200 hands plus yesterday, so about 2,500 hands now in cash, and we're running about 18 big blinds per 100. Okay, so we are back. Once again, I apologize for spamming you with restarting the stream over and over again if that's happening. If you don't have that turned on, obviously that's not an issue. So hopefully I'm not running anybody off today by overdoing it with restarting the stream, but we did have to get these technical issues solved, and hopefully we have at this point. I'm keeping my fingers crossed. I'm going to go ahead and sit down at a couple sit and go, actually one sit and go heads up tournament, and see if we can get a game going. I'm going to skip moving up to 10 cash today, mainly just because I'm kind of annoyed right now and I don't want to move up to a new stake without being able to play my A game. But I think playing $1 heads up sit and go, I'll be able to talk through my hands, and being annoyed or distracted is not going to affect me as much as it would playing 4 tables of cash. I guess this is part of life and we have to just accept what happens and move on, so we can't be upset and let this affect our drive towards moving up in stakes. So we're going to sit here and wait for a game to start. We'll give it a couple of minutes. If nobody sits with us in that time, we may just maybe just discuss a few things and then go ahead and end the video. I'll have a very short upload for today with very little play involved, but at least we can say that we accomplished something today. If indeed OBS is working now, hopefully we do not have to worry about that issue again in the future. I had been kind of wary about the settings we chose. I used a fairly old video to make my settings, and I'm not 100% sure it was optimized for my computer. And that may very well have been the issue. And if so, hopefully it is solved now, and we can move forward. As you can see, we're above $62 because I already have $1 invested in this tournament, which is almost a full buy-in for 10NL above the starting point of $60. So we have 6 buy-ins to play with. In case we drop 6 buy-ins, we could still be playing at 10NL. God forbid that happen. But we have a little bit of a bankroll buffer in case we did happen to run bad for a few stacks. We can maybe maintain and stay at 10NL. But the goal is hopefully we just continue running good and head on up to 25NL very soon. If we could do it in 2 weeks, that would be pretty awesome. That would be running really good. But anything is possible. I think if we could get there by mid-January to 25NL, that would be acceptable. Of course, we're just whatever happens. It's kind of out of our control in the sense that we can just play our best, and that's all we can do. So that's what I'm going to do, is just try to play my best, and hopefully get there sooner rather than later. But we're in it for the long haul. I know we're going to have our setbacks. It's not going to be smooth sailing the whole way. It never is. But I guess the part of the fun in the journey is the journey itself. So we are going to just keep a positive attitude and go with the flow. So nobody has sat with us yet. I'm going to give it is 4:37. When the clock says 4:39, we're going to make a decision on whether we're going to continue waiting or whether we are going to move on at that point. So if we want to just briefly go ahead and take a look again at our bankroll management scheme, we can see we're at 62.57, I believe. If you add back in the money we have invested in this tournament we sat at. We are at 10NL now, and we will shortly be moving up to 25NL when we get to $150. But hopefully we have a fairly large increase to our hourly right now. And actually somebody did sit with us now, so let me pull that game in and pull up my tournament indicator. And I will just fit the game into the window rather than using Table Tamer. Wow, we have a shovey player. That is awesome. I get a little excited anytime somebody shoves the first hand, because I know it's usually a pretty good indication this player doesn't really understand what he's doing. I'm actually going to limp here just to see if he shoves. I normally would open this hand, but let's see if he's one of these players who just wants to shove every hand. If that's the case, we know what we can do at that point. We can just wait for a good hand to get it in with and expect to have a big edge when we choose the correct range versus whatever range he is. I don't know what the word is. Whatever range we put him on. I'm going to reopen table tournament indicator. It's apparently not working yet. I'm going to go ahead and go back to my opening strategy until he forces me to do something else. And he does shove the next time I open, so that's 2 out of 3 hands. We'll give him the benefit of the doubt here, and we'll just say he happened to have giant hands those 2 times. So if he does it again, 3 out of 4 or 3 out of 5, we'll just have to go with that read and put our money in light at some point. And by light, I mean a fairly decent hand. A king queen, a king jack, an ace 9 plus. Something like that, any pair we'll have to just go with. And we obviously will go with the 6s, so should he shove right now. And that's actually a really good flop. Hopefully he leads here. We can call. We'll just make a weak bet and hopefully he shoves with a 10 or queen. And we can go from there. Not the best card in the world. Jack 9 gets there. 9-7 gets there. I think we can check back and call a bet. It's going to be annoying if he shoves, but I think we have to raise now once he makes this small bet. And hopefully get value from something. So we will see what he had. I'm guessing he did not have a very strong hand, or else he would have shoved at some point. If he had a 2-pair, top pair type hand, I'm imagining this type of player, from what we can see so far, would have just stuck the money in. And apparently we're not going to be able to get tournament indicator to work. Wow, this player actually had a 2. a queen. Yeah, top pair. So yeah, I'm very disappointed in myself for not winning the tournament, or at least having a huge chip lead right now. It's unfortunate he had the top of his range. And we will be calling a shove should he decide to do that. Unfortunately, he does not, so we'll have to continue on. King 9 is actually pretty close if he shoves here, but I don't think we're going to be able to do it. We're going to wait for a slightly better hand than that. Now, if we were at 2,000 chips right now, we might consider it. But we are not. We don't want to leave ourselves with a couple hundred chips. We want to at least have some room to play in case we lose a 60-40 or 70-30. Let's see if Hold'em Indicator will work, since Tournament Indicator apparently does not want to work. I'm not going to open the 7 deuce suited. I want to keep my range fairly strong so I can call it off a reasonably large amount of time and not be just spewing chips. Hopefully he just open shoves now, and we can get this tournament over with and play a rematch with him. I think he's due for a shove. What do you think? Jeopardy theme? Oh, so we've had some monster hands that we've won the minimum with them, I think. That's fairly unfortunate. But we will continue on thinking we have a very, very good chance of taking this one down. I would say a 70% plus chance at this point. Or no less than 60, I would expect. He overbets the flop, so we're going to fold. And the blinds do go up. We'll continue opening a wide range that connects 12 with flops. And call it off with a fairly wide range. It looks like he may have settled down a little bit. Not sure why our Hold'em Indicator is not working. It's pretty annoying. We're going to try and get value from a thin value range, but we're just not going to put chips in the pots against this type of player without some kind of showdown value. It's just, I think it's a futile endeavor. I'm just going to go with my read. I think we will have to call it off with the ace-9. It's probably the bottom of my range here. Unfortunately, he has pocket 9s. But we could hit an 8 for a chop, or we could hit our ace, obviously. And we do get lucky and chop the pot. It's unfortunate that he's shoving something like 50% of the time, or 40 or 50%. He just happens to have pocket 9s there. He could also be on some kind of heater as well. We'll just count ourselves fortunate here. But I think the ace-9 is a mandatory call based on what has happened so far. I'm thinking we might need to restart Ignition Poker to get Hold'em Indicator to work. I don't think we need it at this point. We have a pretty good read on this opponent, so I'm going to stop trying to pull it up. We're just going to be patient. I think that's the best course of actions versus this type of player. Make him maybe get impatient and just make a big error. We might up the aggression here a little bit. Maybe he's not such a calling station after all. He might just be picking like a top 15-20% hands to get in. If that's the case, we should be opening very wide. I have a strange feeling, or a educated guess, that he's probably shoving something like Ace 8 plus, King Jack plus, maybe Queen Jack suited, maybe any pair. But that's okay. We could still open our fairly wide range against that type of shoving range and reshoving range. It's pretty hard to connect with flops lately. Not that that's 100% necessary, but maybe we need to test the waters and do a little bit of bluffing here at some point. Put a little bit more pressure on him. We're already opening a fairly wide range. So it's a pretty draw-heavy flop. So it's also one. It's one that's going to connect well with a lot of ranges, but he has a wide range. So we're going to have to c-bet this one. Unfortunately, we do get raised. I think it's also a flop he'll either hate or love sometimes. But yeah, unfortunately, we do get raised. This is the first time we've done any kind of light c-bet or anything like that, I believe. Just unfortunate. We really don't know what he's doing yet. It's hard to tell at this point. But we have to take the stance that he's probably just a fish, and we can wait. We have a gut shot. I think it's okay to lead in this spot on an ace-high board. It's hard for us to rep an ace, but it's hard for him to rep one as well because he did not open pre-flop. So we flop a gut shot with an ace-high board. I could see him doing this with a number of draws. We do have showdown value. I think we can call one street. I think he might shut down now with a lot of his hands. I think we can call one more street and then raise any river profitably here. That card does help him quite a bit. I think we just have to bet now and hopefully get him off a 9 or an 8 here. Not saying that'll necessarily happen, but we have to at least try. We do have queen high. We have to try and get him off king high or any kind of piece of the board he might have. We look fairly strong by the line we took. I think we can credibly rep something on that board, especially once the flush completes. Just going to check back the ace-10. I'm going to lead with showdown value. See how he reacts to a lead. I'm going to continue betting. There's no reason to think we don't have the best hand still. Diamonds did get there. Wow. Okay, so we were a little unfortunate there. I think if he misses with a king high, he might bet that river, and I was thinking of snap calling. Unfortunately, he rivered a 6-outer on us. So he shoves again. This player seems to prefer to get all of his chips in pre-flop. I think we're going to keep opening wide, though. I don't see a reason not to. Got to kind of keep an image that we're raising wide as well to maybe keep him from tightening up, if that's even a possibility. And I do think he's folding often enough to make nearly 100% opening range. Just because he's shoving a lot, he's also not calling much. So anybody that's shove or fold, I think it's profitable to open an extremely wide range. We have a gut shot and so showdown value. We have to proceed like we have the best hand. Just because he raises doesn't mean he has us here. And we do have equity in case he does have something. Giant overbet. We bet called. We showed strength and now he's shoving the turn. I think we just have to, without a stronger read, err on the side of caution here. It's unfortunate. That's actually a really good turn card. I was looking to call. Unfortunately, we just can't play for all our chips there. You know, it's same thing's going to happen next time. We might have a 5 lead there and just bet call, and then he does the same thing, except now we have him drawing dead. And we got to remember that we're kind of free rolling this thing. We got extremely lucky. He picked up the top of his range earlier. He had us dominated, and we got there. So if we can come back and win this, it's just a plus. But I think we need to continue to be patient. We know he's going to pay us off if we make any kind of hand. We had an opportunity earlier, and I guess knowing what I know now, we probably should have just pounded in on that flop and not check back the turn when we had the set. But I think he does just call it down with a lot of second pair type hands. And if he happens to make a straight on us, it's just a good game, sir. It's so hard to make a set, especially heads up. I think you gotta just get as many chips as you can in, no matter what run out you get. Assuming it's not a 4 flush run out or something to that effect. So it does look like he's just playing for stacks here. He's not really trying to play post flop. So it should make it really easy to play here. We just bet fold, we raise fold. And it looks like he limps his weak range and he shoves his stronger parts of his range. We've led several times and he has not folded much. I think we can stab on this board. And he doesn't necessarily, I think if he doesn't have anything, he's not going to, he's going to call us with king, queen high here or anything like that. Since he has a shove fold strategy, I think it's better to raise rather than limp. Because he's going to shove over our raise, or he's going to check back or shove over our limp. So let's just try to take it down pre-flop. I think that's generally the best course of action. Blinds are about to hit 50, 100. So things should speed up a little bit. There'd be more to play for pre-flop. And obviously we can continue with the wide range for calling it off. Of course, we'll open the queen deuce suited. It looks like he's kind of nut camping for the top of his range, or for his stack off range. We're just going to keep applying pressure. Hopefully he loosens up and adjusts to our wide opening range the time we pick up a strong hand. Sevens, this would be a good spot for him to hopefully pick up a hand he can shove with. I think we're just going to shove over his limp. I know he's probably shoving his stronger hands, and when he limps we can almost shove any two. Can't do it too much because obviously he will eventually adjust. I'm actually going to fold the Jack 5 offsuit on the first hand. Just to show we can fold. I have a feeling we're going to get played back at there quite often since the blinds just went up and we've been opening just about every hand. It's unfortunate because the blinds do go up. I'd like to fight for that money, but sometimes game flow you just have to back off for a second. I have a feeling when the blinds go to 5100 he's going to get more aggressive. Generally once we're under 20 big blinds effective, especially under 15, he's going to open his game up quite a bit. See that a lot from a variety of different players. I'm actually limp the ace jack here, see how he reacts. We actually do want him to shove light over us here, so we will play accordingly. Unfortunately he does not, but we will still bet, assuming we have the best hand quite often. Not a big fan of slow playing, but it's okay to do it occasionally when you have a read that somebody might be shoving quite a much wider range should you limp rather than raise. And I think he might expand his range over a limp. Especially since we just shoved over his limp in the last 5 hands, I believe. We'll go ahead and keep 100% going until he proves otherwise. Yeah. He's probably got a monster here. He's been shoving every time, so I imagine he would have something like aces, kings, queens, jacks, ace, king, ace, queen when he does something like that. He paused and then did something other than a shove, which is just kind of like a huge red flag. Hey, I've got a monster. Look at me. Look at my aces. I'm not going to shove the jack 8. Just going to check. So we're under 12 big blinds now. I think we are going to have to shove quite wide. And I think this is one with 10 big blinds almost. We're going to have to shove the queen 10 suited. Hopefully this isn't the hand he decided to pick up something worth calling. But we have equity against everything. I think if he limps, we will shove here. He hasn't done that yet. I don't think we've seen a standard opening raise. I'm going to assume that's strength. Although we do have ace 9, and I think we have to peel one for a min raise. In this situation against most players, I think that would be a ship pre-flop. But considering I have this is just a really strong hand, likely, I think just calling and seeing a flop is optimal. Kind of a gross hand. I think I kind of have to just wait, almost open shove or fold now. Being under 1,000 chips, I have to kind of conserve a little bit. He's not being overly aggressive on the button, so I think we can do that somewhat and not have a huge penalty against us for doing that. If he was just pounding, it's one thing. And I think we will open, I think we can still open fold some of our range. I think we just want to probably make sure we play hands that flop halfway decent if we're going to do that, and not open the 7 deuces and such. If we were around 1,400 chips, we could do that, but when a raise fold kind of sucks right now, I think we just have to play a little bit tight. I know we're playing kind of passive in the big blind a little bit, maybe a little too cautious on the button this juncture, but I think the blinds are about to go up and we'll have a pretty big edge and push fold, I think. I think this is one of the hands we can open. This is probably near the bottom of our range here. Is that a min raise? Yeah, I think we just have to fold. I think there's very few flops, and it just looks really strong when he does that. He's betting a third of our stack. It just looks like super uber strength. And I think just making a pair there might sometimes not be good enough. Getting kind of desperate now. We're probably going to have to shove any button, depending on whether he folds here or not. I think we're going to have to shove the 8-6 suited. Yeah, we're going to have to hit. We do have a 6 so far. He has a diamond draw. And we hold. That's a little fortunate, but we did have a nice hand play. We had pretty good equity versus his hand, so 8-6 suited plays real well against a variety of calling ranges. We've gotten a little lucky in this tournament. But I think now we just have to kind of just put pressure on him, especially with a hand as strong as King Queen. And we're just going to have to put the burden of proof on him. And probably shove close to 100%. I think his calling range might actually be fairly tight. This is actually pretty close with the King 3. King 3 suited might be a call there. I think certainly if he was under 1,000 chips it would be, and he was just pretty close to that. And Queen Jack is certainly a shove. Yeah, if we can get him to fold this button here, we can pretty much take control of this tournament by shoving and having him fold. And he should be down around 700 chips at that point. Not saying that's going to happen, but it would be a good result. And I think now we pretty much have to shove any 2 on this hand. Just take our chances. And King 9 is certainly strong enough. And he's getting kind of short now. If he does not adjust and call extremely wide now, and Jack 10 is probably a reasonable shove for him, actually. And we do take down the tournament, so we will definitely accept a rematch. He has declined. So it's nice to run good in all ends for once. I'm not sure we played our A game necessarily in that tournament. We probably could have pressured him more early and in the mid stages. So we may just go ahead and sit in another one and just see if we can get another game going fairly quickly. If not, we might just call it a day. It is 5 o'clock now. We wasted a lot of time earlier. The bankroll is just about at 64 now. So we're guaranteed a winning day. This will be my last tournament that I'll play for the day, if we can happen to get a game going. So we can see what kind of tournaments are running right now. Yeah, we wouldn't mind taking a shot in one of these at some point. I'll have to set aside a few hours to play if we decide to do that. Maybe a $2 or $1 buy-in. I think we want to make sure if we're going to do it, it's like one of the guaranteeds. I definitely want to take a night, maybe one night a week, one night every other week. Once we're above a point where we can play at least a set of 3 or 4 at night. Like if we could play up to $5 for a shot, and maybe just throw $10 towards some tournaments.
Wow, I feel good.
Hey, thank you for the following. That about made me jump out of my shoes. I had my volumes way up on my headset. But thank you very much for the follow. So now that I can calm down my stomach a little bit there and put a miracle ear in because I think I'm deaf. So I think that would be an entertaining thing to do. I'll announce it ahead of time for us to play a set of tournaments because I think it's worth it occasionally. If we happen to bink one of them, you know, we could double our bankroll potentially, triple our bankroll. Some of these guaranteeds here have 400, 500 prizes, the top prize. And multi-table tournaments are kind of my specialty. I'm much better at tournaments, in my opinion, than I am at cash games. And maybe that's just... And maybe it's a result of playing a short stack in cash games that makes me good at tournaments. But I've always just had a kind of a knack from the beginning. In the first month I played poker, within the first 6 weeks, I can't remember honestly, but right after I took the game up, I banked a second or third. Actually, we did a chop with 3 people left. We chopped, I don't know what the prize pool was, but everybody got about $3,000. It was an $8 buy-in tournament, so yeah, I took an initial $50 deposit, and within a month or so, I had already banked a $3,000 tournament. Not saying that just because I got lucky in a tournament early on makes me a great tournament player, but I had a bunch of deep runs at the same time. It wasn't just the fact that I won that one. I had a couple near final tables. In fact, my dad staked me in a Sunday Million, the first one I played, and I managed to cash it. And I got pretty unlucky with about 50 players. Was it 50 players? 100 players left? So I had a pretty decent score. I think $1,000 in that as well. That was a lot of fun. And that was back in the good old days when all the tournaments were soft. So nobody's sat with us yet. But usually when I say that and I start wondering when somebody's actually going to sit, that's when somebody does. You know what? I'm going to restart the client. Not that that's going to make somebody sit with us, but I think that might be able to get our tournament indicator working if I do that. And I'll just reset the tournament, and then I'll give it a couple more minutes, see if we can get a game going. Oh, I'm still registered. How about that? That's weird. I didn't realize when you voluntarily left the client without it crashing, it would keep you registered in the heads up tournament. So does that mean if I hadn't restarted, I would have just lost this dollar? I certainly hope not, because it's just a sit and go. It's not a multi-table tournament or anything. If that's the case, I'm trying to think. I may have closed my client a few times after sitting a sit and go after somebody didn't sit with me. I'm almost wondering, I haven't really noticed that I lost money out of my bankroll at any point. And maybe not during this challenge necessarily, but wow. That's something I gotta watch for. I gotta make sure I unregister before I shut down later on. That's kind of scary. So it's 5:06. Well, as soon as I said it, as soon as I said we're about to leave, somebody sat with me. That's pretty awesome. So I was about to say I was going to give it one more minute. And so we'll get to play one. Let's make it 2 for 2 today. That would be pretty awesome. Get us above $65. I don't think we're looking to get the money in here. We actually have to bet with this kind of scary board. I don't see him checking back many 9s, but I think we can get value from something like a 10. And then maybe we could call a few rivers if he wants to turn his hand into a bluff. Not necessarily likely, but possible. We're going to start building our wide opening image here. Alright, preliminary, just opening 100% on the button. And we're definitely defending fairly wide with the Queen 8 for sure. I think this is a good board to check raise because we will be defending with a fair amount of aces, and there's not necessarily a bunch of aces in his range. I think we're going to bet 60 and probably give up a lot of rivers. I think we have to bet the 10 because that's an overcard to him having a pocket pair. I think we just have to rep it and get him off a pocket pair of some kind. Not necessarily going to happen, but we have to try. We have nothing but Queen high. We have to try to get him off king high, and certainly he'll have a few strong hands here. And he did have an ace, which I think he played that reasonably. He did check back for showdown value. We did put him in a tough spot, though. I think we will call the 3-bet with 8-6 suited and see what happens here. Now, he doesn't necessarily have to have an ace in his range to 3-bet us. So I think we can profitably raise this to 200. We just got caught in a bluff, but I think we have to play back at him a little bit early on if he happens to be a wide 3-better. This has the benefit of getting him off, making him not quite be as bluffy if he happens to be 3-betting light. If we're playing back at him and bluffing, he's going to probably tighten up. Of course, we're going to have to fold here because I think he just happens to have it. And it's unfortunate. He's had the top of his range a couple times here. But that's okay. We have chips to play with. It's a little gamble we had to take early on sometimes. And generally, we're just going to win it right there. And he's just not going to have an ace on the prior hand. So we just happen to run bad. I think it's good to pressure this type of player. I have an idea that he's just an aggressive reg. And you have to fight aggression with aggression. And certainly we'll have to see about the ace high board. This is a good board for him to raise as well. Once we peel an ace, a king, we're going to have to continue betting. Although, we could check back and pick off some bluffs from a lot of his floats. Because this is a fairly dry board. I think he's just floating us here. And I think we could probably get value on the river from like a 5 or a 2. I'm going to check back and try and do some kind of bluff from him if he happened to have just air that he was floating out of position with. I think we would bet if he checks, yeah. And if he has an ace, that's a really passively played ace. We'll have to take note of that he plays all of his top pairs passively. But I think we will get a call from a 5 or a deuce here, certainly a 9 if he happens to have that. Pocket 6s. I don't think he has to have an ace. When he takes that long, he certainly does not have an ace. So, and we will defend with the ace-8 offsuit. And we'll look for a check call on this board. I think there's a lot of turn cards. We could potentially get him off a chop or a better ace. I think check calling is better than check raising in this spot. I think check calling looks strong because we've been shown check raise with air, so we probably have some kind of showdown value here. We do pick up a gut shot. We probably can peel again. He might barrel a hand that we're beating right now. He could pick up a flush draw on the turn. He could certainly have a hand like, I don't know, what could he have? 8, 10, something like that with a gut shot. I think we have to call one more straight. And I think he will check back just about everything here. Unless he happened to bink a king or just had a strong hand in the first place. It's actually a pretty good card to check call with an ace. Unless he's the type of player that would turn a 6 into a bluff or something like that. This actually looks kind of value-y. I think he would bet bigger if he was bluffing. I think this might just be some kind of thin value with a 10-9. Or maybe even a hand of a strong overpair, something like aces or queens even. I think he might bet this sizing. I really don't think he's going to bluff 159. If he is, that's a good bet. I think that's probably just some kind of thin value bet right there. I think the best play is to check back here. He might not think we're going to bet an ace, and I think our king high has good showdown value. And we certainly have the best hand here, almost always, I would think. I think we're going to min-raise a lead on the turn here. And just try to get the showdown. We're now going to just protect our hand. I think he calls with some queen highs. And we're certainly going to value bet the river as well. I think something like 90 is probably good to get him just call with a 5 or a queen high. I think he calls with a queen, maybe even sometimes a jack high here. And if he has an ace, good game, sir. Good game, sir, if you have an ace. And we have the same hand. So it's a little fortunate, unfortunate at the same time, although he probably calls that river most of the time no matter what comes with his ace high, with his king high. Kind of lucky that he didn't re-raise the turn there with his flush draw. We'll take a chop there, it's fine. There's kind of a thin raise for him there. So he's 3-bet now 2 out of 5 times. I just think a hand as strong as Queen 10 we're going to have to defend with. We have a gut shot, over card. So it just depends on his sizing here on the turn. He's going to hate this flop a lot, but if he has a stronger hand, like a big pair or something, he's going to have to bet. This connects with our range. I'm going to check back like we have some showdown value here, and probably bet at some point. So I think he will check call now a lot with some equity, and then fold the river. So I think we're just going to have to shove any river now. Once he check calls, if that's what he does. Not the best card in the world necessarily to shove with, but I think we have to anyway. And if he calls us with like ace king or something here, or queens, or I mean he's certainly going to call with overpairs. But I think we can credibly rep a jack, and if he doesn't have a jack beat, I think he folds this most of the time. Although the 6 is not the greatest card, we could get some hero calls, especially since we just bluff. But I'd rather stack this short. We just have to fight for these chips. And I do not want to play this player again. I think he's more competent than we would normally want to play at these stakes. And it looks like he's just going to call now, and we're going to be beat. Yeah, his ace high. I don't blame him for calling there. I think I would have preferred a 6. It's a little heroish. I'm going to decline this. He's a little stronger player than I would like to play at these stakes. So it's unfortunate we got hero called there on the river. I don't blame him for doing so, but I think we do get a fold often enough, and we kind of have to fight for those chips at that point. So I think we're going to go ahead and call it a day. Once again, we split our sit and goes. We'd like to have won that one, but we're still up for the day. We're over $62. Oops, you know what? I just accidentally registered for a tournament, and I was just about to unregister for it. Oops. I guess we have to play this one as well. Hopefully that's not the same player we just played, and I have a sneaking suspicion it might be. Well, darn. I guess we just have to play. So we'll just do our best. We'll find out pretty quick if it's the same player. We'll defend the king 7. And we'll probably check raise this board. Now we'll just barrel off. We have some showdown value. We could potentially get him off something. We're going to fold to a raise, however. I really don't want to be playing this one, but I guess we have to do our best at the same time. Seems like lately we're doing kind of bad in the small pots. I think that's just a matter of we're just kind of card dead on flopping anything recently. And we're just kind of running into top of ranges. So I think that's kind of throwing us off on our tournaments. Lately, our heads-up tournaments. So we're just never flopping any equity or anything lately. It's hard for us to even flop a pair. And the times that we've been check raising as a pure bluff, the few times we've done it, we've just ran into something. So it's unfortunate. For whatever reason, we've also been playing some fairly strong players. I think this is the kind of board you'd want to just barrel off on. There's a ton of cards they're going to hate on the turn. If he haven't, it's going to be difficult for somebody to call in with ace high on that board. And we will defend the jack 8 suited. I think this is one of those good boards to check raise on. And certainly we're going to protect our hand now. He'll sometimes have a queen that he checked back or a weak ace. And now we just have to check and hope we're good, which is unlikely once he calls the turn. Yeah, this looks like he could have just had a weak ace that he checked back, or he's going for thin value with a queen. There's really no draws that he could have picked up on the turn. I'm just going to give up. Once again, another spot we could have just easily won or checked down and had the best hand. Unfortunately, he just had it there. Yeah, and I have the sneaking suspicion. I'm pretty sure this is the same player. So we're going to have to adjust. He's a little light on the 3-bet, so we might have to tighten up our range on the button. Yeah, we'll have to make that adjustment. But I think he's opening wide, so we have to defend wide as well. We keep getting these ace high boards with nothing. And he's just going to c-bet this board 100%, and it's not going to play back at him yet. It's already proven to be a futile effort. We're going to give up with the 8-3. It sucks that we can't just find more of these 80-20 types. We keep playing these 78-60 types. And this is like one of the few hands that he has ever folded to us. It's unfortunate we have queens here. We're just running bad. So if we can just get through this period of run bad, I think we're probably about even. Normally I would consider checking this back for showdown value, but I think against this player type I would rather bet, check back the turn, and then bet the river. Just because I think he would understand that we're checking back showdown value, so I don't want to underrep my hand by actually betting. I'm not going to defend the king 4 offsuit. It's a little bit weak. I will defend wide, but that's either one of those 3-bet or fold hands, I think. And if he is 3-betting, if he 3-bets this and continues 3-betting, I'm going to check back, see if he can lead. I may just call the turn now. I was going to raise any bet, but I think I can just bet now. And I think I can bet for thin value on this river. I'm not sure that he knows this is the same player, but if he does think this might be me again, he might call this thinly. I think he calls with any 8 or 7. Yeah, I think we would be missing value if we didn't bet that. And we can take a look at what he had. He's going to give up the 6 deuce. So he did have an 8. Makes sense. Just fold the jack deuce. He's extremely loose, so we'll be a little bit on the tighter side just to try and have a better hand going to the flop most of the time. Since he's open 100%, I don't really want to pay out of position. I don't give him credit for folding to 3 bets, so we're just going to ship a strong hand like ace queen suited and hope he can have an ace jack and call it off. Not a big fan of doing small 3 bets and building pots against this type of player who although I haven't 3 bet him yet, I just have a feeling he's not folding to 3 bets. So why build a pot out of position with an unmade hand? Of course, some of the hands he would be calling with I would be dominating, but we're not going to flop anything much of the time, or it's going to be an awkward spot against a fairly, potentially, at least, not necessarily competent, but at least play machiney. Showdown, over showdown value type player. I don't have any showdown value here, so I will bet the gut shot. Bet a little bit on the big side to discourage any kind of check raising or anything light. It looks like he is just about opening 100%. I probably could defend the king 4, but I'm going to go ahead and fold. I will open the king deuce, however. I'll check this back with showdown value. I like this to have the best hand here sometimes. I think we can actually do a little bit of protection here. I'm tempted to 3-bet just to see how he reacts to it. I think I'm going to do it with some kind of suited hand if I decide to do it. Just want to see how he reacts to it while blinds are fairly small. I'm going to insta-check back. It is a draw heavy, but I expect us to have the best hand here almost always. I think I could just bet for value now. He's the type of player that would call 2 streets with king high. And I think he just a lot of time has an 8 here, or some kind of piece of the board. I'm going to actually bet really small to maybe induce even a raise from him sometimes. Wow, that's actually really strange. I'm glad he did not raise because I was snapping him off. I'm glad I bet small. That is a really strange way to play that hand. Not sure why he wouldn't raise at some point. My hand was pretty much face up. I'm just going to protect my hand. There are some semi-bluffs he could have here, but I have a blocker to some of those semi-bluffs. I think I have to bet once the club hits. And then try and go for showdown value. I'm on the river. Yeah, I'm just not going to defend the king 5 type hands. If it was king 5 suited, I think I would 3-bet this hand. One, I haven't 3-bet yet, so he might give it a lot more respect, so I think I can do it light once or twice. I keep getting this king 6, king 5. Starting to get annoyed. I might just have to 3-bet one of those. So I am going to 3-bet this hand if he opens. Go to about 180. 3 times his raise. And he did insta-fold. So I think probably every time I pick up a hand like that, I'm going to 3-bet. Maybe not twice in a row, but I think that's the type of hand I should be polarizing my range with. I'm going to defend. I'm going to protect my hand. This is a really draw-heavy board. He hasn't shown to be too check-raisy, so I think he might call with a lot of hands that I could just get 2 streets of value and check back the river with. I'm going to stick to the plan to stay fairly tight in the blinds. I know I'm losing some because he's stealing so wide. But I think if I mix in that 3-bet occasionally, I'll bet half the pot. hopefully get raised by something. It's a pretty big blank on the turn. I'm just going to keep betting. He's shown to be hero-y. I know he's checked some turns with strong hands, and he could have Queen Jack here. I think we still have to bet. I expect he just had something like Queen 10 there, or maybe a weak king. And we're going to find out. Another King 4. Man, King 5, King 4, King 6. He actually ended up with 2 pair there in the river. So that's why he got paid off. So I was thinking maybe he could raise that type of hand, but I guess he plays pretty cautiously with his stronger middle strong hands. And now that I know he calls so light, I've just got to go for value again with my second pair. I'm definitely betting this turn. Actually, this isn't the worst turn to check back. I don't want to get blown off my equity here, and I almost always have the best hand. He doesn't necessarily have to have an ace here. Would he bet, though, if he just had 2 pair? I think most of the time he's just going to check, call his 2 pairs. I think I can safely fold my 2 pair. Would he bluff this card? What hand could he have that he would bet here, that he would have had on the flop? Flush draws got there. King Jack would check. King Jack would probably raise the flop. Queen 10 would probably check here. Queen Jack would check here. His most likely holding was something like Ace 3 or a flush draw, the way he plays passively with his strong draws. So I'm just going to make a hero fold here. There's some players I wouldn't fold there. That actually, if I knew that card was going to peel off, I would just bet the turn. I think this hand is a little too strong to 3-bet, so I'm just going to call with it. And just decide what I'm going to do based on his bet sizing here. That's a little bit strong of a bet. I think check calling is good. And I think I'm just going to check shove this card and try to get value from Ace Queen or Queen 8 by chance that he could have. It looks like he's just really ready to commit, and I can't fold. If he has Jack 10 or something here, I'm just beat. But I think he's more likely going to have Aces, Kings, Ace Queen, something like that. Or just, wow, I didn't expect him to do that. Maybe he was on tilt a little bit because he had lost with his straight. So I'm not going to register again. But that makes us 2 out of 3 on victories on sit and goes. So I'm actually glad we accidentally set that one. So we end up with a full hour almost here of play on top of what we did briefly for cash games. I probably had 20 to 30 minutes of cash game play. 20 minutes before we actually got any recording done, and then another 10 or 15 minutes. So we didn't end up with too bad of a... We didn't lose too much time today. So we are at 63.42, and we're definitely solidly rolled now. Well, I say solidly. It's an aggressive shot. We're going to have 21 big blinds to start 10 and L. I mean, sorry, 21 buy-ins to start 10 and L. So we will get that done, get started tomorrow. And I'm going to go ahead and cut this short here. I know we didn't play our full 2 hours, but we did get a late start today, and we had a lot of technical issues. For any of you that hung in today and watched the whole thing, I appreciate it, and I'm sorry again for the difficulties. It's probably my own fault. I probably should have, when I reset OBS up recently before I started streaming again, I should have went through a few guides and made sure my settings were correct for my computer. I think they're good now. Let me know if the video quality is bad now or something, or if there's something I need to correct. But hopefully we're good going forward. So everybody, thank you for watching, and enjoy the rest of your weekend. And tomorrow I will be streaming, most likely, 90% chance I will, but I do have my daughter's birthday party, and we think we're doing it 12 to 3. So I may be starting 3:30, 4 o'clock, somewhere in that range. Probably about the same as today, just to let everybody know that wants to watch. So we will see you tomorrow. And for those of you overseas or in different time zones, basically I'm going to be starting an hour to an hour and a half, 2 hours later tomorrow. I believe we start around 7 p.m. Greenwich Meridian time, if you want to just calculate it that way. Okay, so thanks again. We'll talk to you later.